Hey, it's Pete, and I was tagged by Derek Green again. Thank you, Derek. This is the Filmtastic February Tag, created by Back Away from the Donkey. And Derek was tagged by JJ the Bookworm Blacksmith. Um, I'm going to check out those when I can, but I wanted to jump right in. And since Derek was kind enough to tag me, and he had some really interesting answers to this, and I may comment a bit on his answers because I like them a lot. So, there is 10 prompts, including tagging people, so 9 questions. These are all about films related to books. I'll try and keep it as close to books as I can. I've done some planning, but not that much. Okay, number one, your first memory of seeing a film at the pictures dash slash cinema. Well, I wish I had a better answer for this because I have a lot of fond memories of going to the movies as a young boy with my parents, without my parents. Um, but I'm fairly sure the first movie I saw was a reissue of Snow White. It was some Disney film, and I was really too young to understand the film. I just remember colors and images, and I think that was it. Seven Dwarfs, Snow White, which is the first big feature film. My mom used to take us every time to the reissues. Disney would every so often. This is way before videos or anything. Every 7 years or so, they would cycle through and they would release a different old film. So it could very well have been Sleeping Beauty or another that I saw, but I think it was the original Cinderella. Don't have memories of it. I did watch it later. The Witch is Scary, of course. I have a lot of early memories of films. We used to watch Wizard of Oz every year at Christmas. Um, and always be terrified in advance because we knew the witch and the monkeys were coming on. But you wait all year to see the Wizard of Oz, and it was always an exciting time. A, a movie that always stands out, and this would have been much later. I was probably like 12 or what year did Barry Lyndon come out? I have to look this up. Barry Lyndon, we saw that in the movie theaters because oh, 75. So I was 14, I guess, 13 or yeah, 14 probably, which I saw with my family. But it always stuck out because it was the first movie that I liked that everyone in my family hated. They hated the ending. They thought it was too dark and downbeat, but I thought it was a fantastic movie. I think we all went because of Ryan O'Neal. Um, it's a great movie. I saw it recently. I just watched it. I've just been thinking about it a lot this year. Probably not my favorite Kubrick film. It didn't have as big an impact on me this last year when I saw it, but it's still a very good movie. And I enjoyed a lot of things. Of course, it was very innovative, as most of Kubrick's films were. He learned how to shoot in candlelight, so he could dress the sets with just the kind of lights they would have had in the time. It is also a movie that I don't know what its reputation is now. If you've seen the new movie The Housemaid, which I might talk about in here a little bit, the villain, it's the favorite movie of the villain, and I actually wonder, it's pretty obvious who the real villain in The Housemaid is. He's the only white man in the movie, so who else could be the villain? um, the ultimate villain. There's a couple twists in The Housemaid, but his favorite movie is Barry Lyndon, and I think that's supposed to be foreshadowing. I think it's supposed to say that you're a bad person if you like Barry Lyndon. So who knows? This is really a weird way to sort of slide backways into a Housemaid movie review. Oh, and I really did enjoy the movie very much, but it might come up in one of these other answers. It's one of the few movies I've seen, one of the few new movies I've seen this year. Okay, so not a very satisfying answer to number one. Number two, a book about film. It can be behind the scenes, an autobiography, or work of fiction that includes film as a main subject. Well, there are many good ones. There is, I'm going to go, I'll just say Hitchcock Truffaut. It's probably one of the first film books I read. It's a series of interviews that the filmmaker Francois Truffaut, who started his career as a film journalist, like many sort of 60s and 70s auteurs, you know, did. He started out as a journalist. He made friends with Truffaut, and he did a series of interviews discussing pretty much every one of Hitchcock's films. And over the course of the book, Truffaut becomes a more established director, and it's an interesting dynamic they have. I think there's even a documentary of it, of readings from it, but it's kind of a essential film book. You will learn a lot about, if you haven't read it or haven't heard of it or don't know much about old Hollywood, you will learn a lot about various critical theories and things that sort of shape the way people think about film now, like the auteur theory and independent film versus studio films and all that kind of stuff. I think that's worth reading. Probably my favorite film book is called Lulu in Hollywood. Oh, do I have a picture of that? I don't think I do. I should have made pictures of these. Lulu in Hollywood is uh, it's sort of billed as an autobiography. It really isn't. It's it's a series of essays. Some are autobiographical essays by Louise Brooks, the famous silent film star, American film star, but probably her most famous films were a couple of films she made for G.W. Pabst in Europe. Pandora's Box, where she played a character named Lulu, which is a great movie. I would recommend it. It is black. It is black and white, which is a great sin, I know. And even worse, it's a silent film. It's one of the best films you'll ever see. I'm not going to put it on my top 5 recommendations though for now because I'm talking about here. But anyway, Lulu in Hollywood. Then so she, I believe she only made one sound film. It's a sort of a B picture with John Wayne, sort of a contemporary western. It's not the best film. She's not that recognizable in it even. But so her career is basically as a silent film star, a big star in the United States, and then those art films in Europe. Then many years passed, and she left the business. She even had, I think there's rumors she was working as a waitress someplace for a while. There are rumors about different actresses doing that though, or just have some kind of normal job. But in later years, she started writing for one or more of the big cinema magazines in the 50s and 60s. And she proved to be an excellent writer, very funny. She was the sort of the bulk of the, like one of the main features of this is a long essay about her relationship, her friendship with Marion Davies, who was the mistress and later wife of, or maybe was she ever the wife of William Randolph Hearst. This is a very famous circle in the world of classic Hollywood cinema. Of course, William Randolph Hearst was the main influence, or the main target, if you will, of Citizen Kane. He was the character is based on William Randolph Hearst, although it was also based on other people as well. More talked about now, but anyway, she was a friend with Marion Davies, who's uh, no, I'm sorry. She was a friend with Marion Davies' niece, Pepe Lederer, who was an interesting character in her own right. It's a really fun essay to read if you like old Hollywood stuff and the decadent days of early Hollywood. If you've what was that recent movie that was made about Hollywood that a lot of people hated, which actually turned out to be really good? Uh, Babylon. Babylon's a great movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't go see it when it came out because all these people were trashing it and said it was horrible and ridiculous. And I watched it and it was incredible. Babylon with Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt, who are really always good in everything. Both those two, Brad Pitt, and this will come back in another answer too. Brad Pitt, who's well, never mind. We'll get to that. I got to find my questions again. Okay, so I would recommend Lulu in Hollywood by Louise Brooks. Um, if you just want to read nonfiction that's well written and very funny and acerbic and very honest, very no holds barred. She did not hold back. She didn't really have a reputation that she cared about winning or losing or anything, and maybe why her career was relatively short, but who knows. Okay, so that was two: a book about film, Lulu in Hollywood, or Hitchcock Truffaut. A novelization or tie-in book. Uh, Derek on his channel, I won't give away his answers or anything. He came up with a really good one. It got me thinking of. I mean, it's one he really liked, and but it was a good example because it was a kind of novelization that if that movie that he's talking about came out today, there would be no novelization. They just don't do them anymore. Um, but I kind of liked them. They were a big deal when I was a kid because if you missed a movie or couldn't see it or wanted to see it again or wanted to experience it again, there was really no way, until it came on TV 3 years after it left the theaters, or sometimes things were re-released. So where are my downloads? But there is a young gentleman, and I hesitate to bring him up because it always uh, results in annoying comments. But maybe not for this because this is not a film video. But Quentin Tarantino's ninth film, maybe his last film. Who knows if he's ever going to get around to another. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino. This is the novelization that he wrote of it. I'm guessing this was because he also wrote another book that came out about a year later called Cinema Speculation. I'm guessing a lot of this thing that he's suddenly writing books had to do with the pandemic. And you can see here's somebody's picture of holding it up from their review. It's kind of blurry, but you can see it is a pocket-sized book, and I've been thinking about pocket books a lot because they're apparently gone. So this shows what Hollywood clout can do for you in the publishing industry. He wrote this novelization. He insisted that it come out as a regular pocket-sized paperback first. Later, there was a special edition. Later, there was a hardback that had some extra material. But this came out in the form of an old paperback. I wish I had a copy to show you because in the back there's ads for other books that don't exist. Books that were mentioned in the movie, and there's this kind of style is very much how novelizations used to be done. For example, for comparison, here's Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which would have come out about the same year that the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was set. However, if anybody else had done what Tarantino did to the story in this, he would have flipped out. But it's his story, but it is not it's an entirely different take on the material of the movie. This big climax at the end, the big action is just kind of like of the film is just sort of mentioned in passing. It's much more about the characters. He certainly wrote it himself because it does have the feel of a first novel in some way. Now, Quentin Tarantino's a lifelong reader. He's a big fan of crime books and Elmore Leonard and Donald Westlake, people like that. But and this is marvelously written. Settings are different. For example, the first scene in the movie takes place in moves on Frank's restaurant, I think, or one of those famous old Hollywood restaurants. In the book, it takes place in the agent's office. So he resets things. He puts things in a way. I think he may have started writing this as a novel before he switched it to a screenplay. It ends in a very different place. It's very much about a day in the life of, or a week in the life of these two characters. And just there's some little side stuff about the Manson family later. It's a wonderful book. It is there are certain scenes that are more cinema like that he switches back between present tense and past tense in different scenes, and there's a little bit of kind of point of view issues here and there, which shows me that he's a little uneven as a novelist, but he probably doesn't care, and it's very readable. I just mentioned those things because I really do think they show that he wrote it himself. People are very cynical about that when a celebrity has a book out, thinking it's always ghost written, but I think he wrote this entirely himself. I think he's too much of a control freak to give it over to anybody else anyway. And the book sounds like his voice. So I was going to show another. Did I not get this? Did I not download this? Oh, well, here we go. This book, Zardoz. This is the novelization of Zardoz. Um, Probably too blurry to see, but this is credited. The tagline is an odyssey of Zed the warrior in the barbarian future, caught between the brutals and eternals in a battle for the world. A novel by John Borman with Bill Stair, and with 8 pages of scenes from the sensational new 20th Century Fox film starring Sean Connery. Thank God for this book because I desperately wanted to see Zardoz. What year did that come out? I was definitely not allowed to see it. We had in my town, Reno, Nevada, we had a movie theater. 1974 is when the novelization came out. So the book came out, so I would have been. So I guess the movie came out at the same time. Would have come out the same year, which means I would have been 13, 12 or 13. Parents weren't going to allow that. There was a theater. There was a drive-in theater where we saw a lot of movies, where people with kids saw a lot of movies, and it had 4 screens. This is insane. You will not believe me when I tell you this. But so you would be going to see the Nutty Professor, not the Nutty Professor, but the Son of Flubber or something, some Hollywood movie like that, or like some Dean Jones uh, family movie where the Shaggy Dog or something. And on another screen would be A Clockwork Orange. And you would be turning around at the assault scenes in Clockwork Orange, and your mom would go, "Eyes, don't look at that screen." So they would have movies. They would have R-rated movies or X-rated, I think, Clockwork Orange, and they also had this with Zardoz, which is also a very erotic film. It's got very racy scenes and a lot of nudity. Charlotte Rampling, thank God for her. So I desperately wanted to know what this movie's about because it's if you've heard of Zardoz or seen it, it's all kinds of strange imagery and very surreal. And of course, we weren't supposed to be looking over there. We're supposed to be watching over here to 101 Dalmatians or whatever it was. And but thank God somewhere there was a rack of, like, you know how libraries, they'll sometimes have books that people have donated where uh, you know, cheap paperbacks and stuff. Either my school had this or the public library had it, so I was able to at least read the book. And that was a great way to get stories when you weren't allowed to see the movie. Of course, Quentin Tarantino's parents probably took him to that movie when he was 3 years younger than me, so he probably would have been 10. They would have taken him, and that's how it was back then. But my parents weren't like that. It was like very much like stick to the ratings. But I mean, if you had a drive-in theater that had screens playing R or X-rated movies, not X like Deep Throat, but X like back when it was first created for really adult-themed movies like Midnight Cowboy or Clockwork Orange or those kind of things, very disturbing adult-only films, kind of films they don't really make anymore. Um, could you imagine the scandal? There are children over here. Can't, but at the time it was just like, hey, look at this screen, not that screen. Very funny. So that always that's like more of an interesting anecdote about films, my film experience as a child, than about what was the first movie I saw because I was so young when I saw it. The first movie there were a couple. I saw Planet of the Apes when. Okay, that came out in '68. So then I was 7. My mom took us to that. She and my dad had already seen it, and so she, God bless her. Um, So she went to see it, and of course, before she went to see it, she told us the end of the movie because that's how my mom communicates about movies. She's like, "Well, we're going to see this movie's really cool. I think you kids will like it. There's some scary stuff, but I think you'll be okay. And there's Charlton Heston's butt, but I think you can handle that." And then in the end, it all turns out, that's how she spoiled that movie because she loved to spoil movies. But she took us, at age 7, and another movie she took us to. What year did 2001 come out? She took us to that too. I must have been very young for that. 2001 came out in 68. Did they really both come out in 68? I think they did. Planet of the Apes 68. That was a big year for movies, man. Planet of the Apes. Big year for science fiction. Yeah, both in 68. She took us to 2001. Age 7. That's really probably the most formative movie of my life. It was not boring. It was completely riveting. I know today people think the movie is boring, but to a 7-year-old at that time, it was not boring. And I've watched it several times since, and I still love it. It's probably I think I'll, whatever. Who cares what I say? It's certainly one of the greatest movies ever made, which is why I'm leaving it off my list later. Now, where the heck am I? I gotta find. Oh, I lost the list of questions again. I'll be back. Number 4, a film about writers or writing. There are not a lot that came immediately to mind. The one I settled on is a movie that I would have put on my recommendation list at the end of this movie if I had more slots, and probably deserves to be there. Anyway, one of my favorite movies of all time. And the lead character is a writer. He's a pulp writer of westerns who goes to who is not doing that well, who's out of money, and who kind of lives hand to mouth, who goes to Vienna, where he's invited by his friend. He's played by He's played by Joseph Cotton. His name is Holly Martins. His friend is Harry Lime. The picture, of course, is why can't I think of the name of it? It is a Carol Reed film written by Graham Greene, The Third Man. I'm going to use a lot of superlatives in this video, I guess, but definitely one of the best thrillers, one of the best spy thrillers, one of the best gangster movies made in the classic Hollywood era. Harry Lime is played by Orson Welles. There's some incredible scenes in this movie. Not the least is the final shot. There's some brilliant scenes with Orson Welles. He apparently wrote his sort of famous speech in the that appears in the middle of the movie. Apparently, he wrote that himself, and Carol Reed or Graham Greene was happy he could not improve upon it. It's a marvelous movie. If you haven't seen this movie, I don't know what to tell you. It's funny. It's intricately plotted, and maybe I have photos. I don't know. Do I? Oh my goodness. Yeah, here's one. It's Joseph Cotton is the star. He is not my favorite actor normally. I don't really go to my way to see Joseph Cotton films, even though he is very highly regarded by serious directors of this time. Um, this name here, the woman in the movie, her name is Volley, or she was billed just as Volley. She was a European actress. Incredible performance by her as well. Orson Welles makes one of the best entrances in screen history. Trevor Howard is very funny as this captain. This is set right after World War II, where Vienna is still a divided city with different, sort of similar to Berlin, where different sections of the city are ruled by different factions. Or no, that's not what it is. But where there's the French, the British, the Americans, and the Russians are all attempting to govern it together. When there's a lot of black market activity. Holly Martin, just a, a brilliant, a very funny character, a very he has to be a writer. It's excellent. He has to be a writer because he has to have the imagination uh, to keep probing at this mystery when people keep telling him, just get on a plane and go home. This is not your problem. But he's not the brightest guy by his own admission. And he has imagination, and things might be happening in his imagination. It's a wonderful movie. It's got the brilliant zither film score, which is so haunting. If you haven't seen that, and you do watch it, please come back and tell me whether you enjoyed it or not. It's probably one of my favorite movies of all time, and it does have a writer in it. And I'm probably going to watch it tonight after this. It is one of those movies that every time I think of it, I have to watch it. And there's a couple more coming later, so stay tuned. I'll try and too long again. Anyway, okay, a film that brings back fond memories. I didn't think of one for this because so many do. Because I don't want to repeat stuff that I'm going to do those recommended 5 films at the end, which is the last prompt. Spoiler alert: a film that made you want a film that brings back fond memories. Well, there's one I haven't seen in a while that I've probably watched like a dozen times. Bill Forsyth's Local Hero, with Peter Riegert and Burt Lancaster, who. And it's it's a film about a guy who he works for what is it, an oil company, I think, and he goes to this small town in Scotland where his boss Burt Lancaster wants to buy the whole town and put oil rigs there, and it's just about Peter Riegert. This is before he was on Bosom Buddies or anything. Is Peter Riegert the guy from Bosom Buddies? No, that's somebody else. And that brings me another movie I always like to think about. Always brings fond memories, and that is My Favorite Year, starring Peter O'Toole as kind of a swashbuckling Errol Flynn type guy who's kind of on his back legs. It's a period movie, and he appears on this like live sort of, I guess today, I mean, live sort of Sid Caesar Hour kind of show. The equivalent today would be like guest hosting Saturday Night Live or something, and it's about his his um, his experience as a drunk, dissipated movie star, and it's a very funny comedy with the guy who reminds me of Peter Riegert but isn't, and it's about their week together. And again, it is about a writer, because this young writer, this young comedy writer in the show is tasked with the job of keeping Peter O'Toole's character sober and on point for the movie. It's also got Jessica. Who's Jessica? What's her name? Man, I'm messing this up. What's that actress's name? She was in a lot of movies right around this time, and she's always good. All her movies are good. Jessica, My Favorite Year. I can't believe anybody watches my channel. Jessica Harper, fantastic actress. This time she was in. I just love her so much. She's still around. For a while I followed her on Facebook. I don't know if she used to. She was in the Phantom of the Paradise. She's in Stardust Memories with the Woody Allen film. She's in a couple of movies really around that time. She was a big ingenue star. My Favorite Year, Jessica Harper. But I might as well look up the guy. It was directed. This is 1982. It was directed by Richard Benjamin, who's mostly known as an actor. I believe this is his only film. He directed a lot of TV though too. He's in a great movie called Diary of a Mad Housewife. He plays the creepy husband. Mark Lynn Baker is the guy who plays the young writer who has to ferret Peter O'Toole around. 1982, my favorite year. All right, let's just try and get back on track here. See, this is why I don't have a movie channel. It would just be constantly spinning out from one connection to another. That brings back fond memories. So does Local Hero, which I mentioned, the Bill Forsyth film. I guess I'll put links to all these. A film that made you want to read the book. Probably Planet of the Apes. The book is very different, of course. People have talked about that. It's a very good book. I'll just leave it at that because I'm going along here. 7, a book that made you want to watch the film. I'm going to go with, just because I have to shoehorn it in here, I guess I don't have to, but I'm going to go with The Housemaid, which is a big, huge independent published book that's a big bestseller the last few years that was just made into a movie with famous people, big trendy people. I was very proud of myself for watching it. You know, I'm watching a real movie that's coming out in 1925, and okay, so that was based on the 2022 novel by Frida McFadden, and stars Amanda Seyfried, wonderful as the apparent villain for the movie. Hope I'm not spoiling too much. And Sydney Sweeney as the eponymous hero, the housemaid herself. Not bad. She's good. I like her in movies. I people are. She is quite a subject of fascination on the internet, isn't she? For various reasons, love her or hate her, but I think she's pretty good. She was good in this. It was a good movie. It was like an elevated, what's that channel where they had okay, there's the Hallmark channel where they have all the Christmas movies, right? The Christmas romance movies, that they have all year round, that always have the same plot where the woman goes to small, she's got a asshole yuppie boyfriend, and she goes to a small town and she meets a fireman or something, and she's there to foreclose on the cookie shop or whatever, but she meets the fireman who's, helping the kids make cookies or whatever, and then they fall in love. And those movies are great. But I think there's a channel, I've never really had cable that much, I don't have anymore, called the Hallmark Mystery Channel, or maybe they used to have it, where they would have all these really low budget but really cool thrillers, like, kind of these modern setting but neo gothic thrillers where there's like uh, uh, an evil husband or an evil wife who's trying to destroy someone or whatever. And this is kind of like this is by Paul Feig, the director, mostly done comedies before. He does a lot of those comedies, those sort of uh, well, he's done a lot of comedies. He did like the Ghostbusters film, the female Ghostbusters film, but he's actually done a lot of really good movies too. So this has a little bit of a campy feel, and it's kind of elevated from that. Like bigger budget, better actors. Amanda Seyfried's great, playing a totally ridiculous. I mean, the first 30 minutes or so of this film, she's so ridiculously evil to Sydney Sweeney that it's um, even in a silly dumb thriller like this, and this is probably my favorite kind of movie. If I'm ever looking around TV or Tubi or anything, I like this kind of dumb small cast thriller. Um, but she's just so awful to Sydney Sweeney in this movie, and just she's supposed to be bipolar or something. And then it kind of, as the movie goes on, you find out more about why she's and there it does make a little more sense. And and the guy who's supposed to be, and then there's a twist upon a twist. It's very modern, very contemporary in the way it's the story's told, with the spoiler alert, women becoming allies at the end. When if I were Sydney Sweeney, I still would have wanted to kill Amanda Seyfried at the end, after what she puts her through. But apparently, it's kind of absurdly at the end. Sydney Sweeney they set up a sequel. She's like now she's kind of like at the end. She's kind of like a Marvel character or something where she's going to go around righting wrongs. But I really did enjoy it. It is great, trashy fun. And now I don't have to read the book, which is good. Which is because I kind of wanted to read the book before, but I, I read a couple paragraphs of it, and it was in present tense, which my personal opinion is rarely handled well, as opposed to past tense. It is very has a very YA feel to it, and I just don't want to be with this voice for this long. So I know I'm kind of cheating here because number seven, a book that made you want to watch the film. I didn't actually read the book. I was just glad there was a film, so I could watch the film and experience the story that way. So I don't know if the books are good or not. I couldn't really get into it, and I was glad the movie came out. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun if you like stupid thrillers. And I'm saying stupid in the kindest, most generous, enjoyable way because there is something great about stupid movies. I don't mean bad. I just mean movies that like kind of go for it. Just kind of like, I mean, if you sit down and you think about this movie, it makes no sense. There are many movies, many of the most fun movies you're ever going to see make no sense, and you just have to go with it. And it's the purpose is to be entertained and thrilled, and that's what I mean by stupid. So it's my favorite kind of movie. Although they're not in any of my recommended ones, I'll stay away from the stupid ones for that. Okay, number eight, films based on a book story that bear no resemblance to the source. I didn't think about this one. I well, there are many, of course. I guess big deal right now is Wuthering Heights, which I haven't seen. Although I do like that director. I like Salper, I liked uh, Promising Young Woman. And this director, I can't remember her name. She started out as an actor. She's done those two movies. Everybody hates her for some reason. Those movies are hilariously fun. Well, Promising Young Woman is a little more serious because of the setup is very tragic. Um, but some of the treatment is very um, it's I guess I could say it's like sort of a bit of an uneven movie where they've got this very serious subject, but they've also got this kind of semi campy way to deal with it. And Saltburn is just totally bonkers. It's like people called it compared it to Talented Mr. Ripley, but it's really not. It's really like a really perverted version of um, Brideshead Revisited. I thought that movie was so hilarious. I think there's one particular scene, one particular kind of gross, let's say, bodily function kind of scene that once people saw it, they're like, screw this director, screw this lady, she's horrible, she's an awful director, and this is terrible and just disgusting. And but what do I know? These are good, dumb, stupid movies in the best sense. Saltburn is an insane, ridiculous movie with good performances by good actors and well shot. And yes, an insane twist. Go back and try and watch it knowing the whole plan and everything is ridiculous. But so what? That's what movies are supposed to be. They're not supposed to be books. They're not supposed to make sense. They don't have to make sense. They just have to keep you watching. So, and her new movie, Wuthering Heights, with Margot Robbie, who I love and everything, but I haven't seen it yet. And Jacob Elordi, who we're going to be have now going to have forced on us, like the way they forced Pedro Pascal on us, and the way they forced Margaret Qualley on us, and the way they forced, the way they pick out an actor and force him on us, in movie after movie, and now they're going to make him James Bond. I hope not, but anyway. But I haven't seen it. But what I did see was this movie that people are, even Joyce Carol Oates recommended this movie, and it is an awful movie from the 30s called Wuthering Heights with Merle Oberon and Laurence Olivier, blocked his name out. which is an adaptation of the first half of Wuthering Heights, just like they're complaining about with this new one, is that it only adapts part of the novel. This will be my hottest take. Laurence Olivier is not only miscast as Heathcliff, he's a terrible actor. He is. I don't understand how he became he today. If you say, I don't know, people say the greatest actor is Anthony Hopkins or whoever you would say. That's what they used to say, Laurence Olivier. You know, that's or Marlon Brando or somebody. But the first one was Laurence Olivier. It was just supposed to be such a great actor. I really think he's only given one performance that's any good at all, and that's in Marathon Man, where he plays an old Nazi hiding out, torturing, ending up torturing Dustin Hoffman. That's really his only good performance. It's only when he becomes a person who's not just like in wigs and makeup and just really this old style kind of acting that I don't like, and that other actors of his time, like Ralph Richardson, say, or not so susceptible to. So I don't like Laurence Olivier. Uh, the other male character in Wuthering Heights, what's his name? Linton, Edward Linton, also very badly miscast as David Niven, who's much more likable and charming and engaging on screen than Laurence Olivier, and he plays Linton, so the dopey guy. So it's a terrible movie, I think. And people like it because it's old, and I will go ahead and say that just because a movie's old doesn't mean it's good. But sometimes people can't tell because the acting styles are different, and Merle Oberon's really not my favorite actress either. But it's a terrible movie. There are scenes in this. I think I've complained about this before, but so Wuthering Heights, if you know the story at all, it's about these two families who live out on the moors, and they are like so like almost incestuously. I guess maybe literally incestuously. They're so bound up in each other's lives because there's no other people out there, and it's a very austere, bleak, uh, you know. Story set on a multi-generation saga set on the moors. It's very much takes place in Emily Bronte's imagination, not in any kind of real world. And I believe that's what the director of the new movie was trying to do. At least she says her adaptation of Wuthering Heights is just her adaptation of how the book made her feel, which I think is a good way to approach things. I will always give thumbs up to a director who's trying to do something different with material. Um, as opposed to people who are just trying to follow a formula. But in this movie, there's ballrooms, there's ball scenes. They hold balls where there's hundreds of like ladies in fancy dresses and men in fancy suits. That's it's a terrible movie. I don't care what anybody says. It's a terrible adaptation, and it's just a terrible, boring movie by itself. Anyway, um, okay, so that's what bears no resemblance. That original Laurence Olivier Merle Oberon, Wuthering Heights, is not any better adaptation than anything else. There's another one from Buñuel that people talk about sometimes. I saw that. It didn't really leave any impression on me. And I'm a big fan of the book, so I don't know that it's been well adapted. But anyway. Okay, so also another one, of course, and this is uh, quite a mystery to me, is Frankenstein, which has never been accurately adapted, never been faithfully adapted, ever. And not even, there's been a couple times we've been promised a faithful adaptation, most recently by Guillermo del Toro. It's supposed to be a faithful adaptation, but again, Frankenstein's like a Marvel superhero. He's like throwing people, but it is not a faithful adaptation because it is more sympathetic to the creature than the book, which is very ambivalent about the creature as well. The creature really becomes quite cruel. Uh, and Victor's wife does not fall in love with the creature. Um, the creature in the Boris Karloff sort of version is kills a child, but is because of his misunderstanding of the world, humanity. the creature in Mary Shelley's book does murder a child because he is the younger son. He is the younger brother of Victor Frankenstein. He murders it to cause pain to Victor Frankenstein, murders the young boy. And he murders other people too. So that's not, obviously the old movies weren't faithful adaptations, and this one wasn't. In the 70s there was a movie that I just saw recently. It was a two-part TV movie called Frankenstein: The True Story. Who wrote that? Somebody really famous worked on that film. It is also not a faithful adaptation. It is not even as it is. Both Frankenstein: The True Story and this new Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro do go to the Arctic, so they are. So they have their finale sort of in the Arctic, which is more faithful to Mary Shelley than anything else. But Frankenstein: The True Story. But this movie, this TV movie, Frankenstein: The True Story, it is a great movie. It definitely has its own agenda. It is a very gay movie, and this is not a secret, or this is not. Oh, it's written by Don Bachardy and Christopher Isherwood. They put a strong gay subtext in the movie intentionally. Christopher Isherwood, a famous gay novelist, of course. It's a terrific movie. It is, again, not the same story as Frankenstein. It is, again, a tragic monster played here by Michael Sarrazin. It's worth seeing. I liked it a lot. Jane Seymour's in it. I'm seeing here. James Mason is in it. He plays Dr. Polidori. It's quite legitimate. I would say legitimate reinterpretation of the story. It's worth telling. It is very well made, but again, it is not faithful. It's a miss. I don't think they're. I don't know why they don't want to make a faithful Frankenstein movie. I think it's just maybe it's pretty grim stuff. Okay, and brilliant. I read Frankenstein just this last year, most recently, and it's still an incredible book. Films with, okay, no resemblance, but those, okay, so now I get to recommend 5 films, and I apologize for going long again. I'm trying, every other movie I mentioned in here I'm pretty much recommending anyway, but Third Man would normally be on any list. I tried to pick 5 movies that, what have I got here? I hope I got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try to pick movies that are fun. That'll make you feel good, and I'll go from least feel good to most. Um, in retrospect, maybe these weren't the best picks. Okay, this movie I definitely watched. This is a movie I only discovered a few years ago, but every time I'm tonight, I will be watching this along with The Third Man. It is an amazing movie. It is so energetic. The Sweet Smell of Success with Burt Lancaster again and Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis playing Sidney Falco, the sleazy publicist, a sleazy theatrical publicist who's trying to get the names of who's trying to get clients to pay him to get his name in the paper, and the things he will do to get people to get his clients' names in the paper, the things he will do to get in the column of J.J. Hunsaker, who is his antagonist, Burt Lancaster's character, who's this monster. There was a few movies written about this time that were based on books. There was What Made Sammy Run by Bud Schulberg. There was Room at the Top. I don't remember who was in that. There's that movie with Andy Griffith that started his career. Oh boy, what was his first? What was this movie name? Anyway, there was all these movies at this time that were about a new kind of a face in the crowd. 1957, Andy Griffith was all was an Elia Kazan movie about this type of terrifyingly powerful showbiz type of person who really had people who really had people in their grip, and J.J. Hunsaker is one of these guys. You wouldn't know it from seeing him here, but he is kind of based on Ed Sullivan, of all people. Ed Sullivan, people, if they remember him, they see him introducing the Beatles on his variety show. He started out as a columnist. He was a very powerful columnist. These people, uh, people's careers lived and died by whether they got in these columns. And you can, and at this time, people were starting, screenwriters and people in Hollywood were starting to notice this, and how different people were so powerful and so terrifying in this sort of new era of celebrity, where it became like its own kind of power base within the culture. There's scenes in here with scenes in here. There's a scene in here where they sit down and he's meeting with he comes to the table. He's meeting with a senator, and the senator's got like a stripper with him or something, or somebody that JJ set him up with, and you see that this senator is totally in the employ. This senator is in the power of J.J. Hunsinger because he's been blackmailed. So, anything J.J. Hunsinger wants, in terms of legislation that will help him in his business, he can get from the senator, or it'll be hell to pay. And so it's considered, it's by Terence McKendrick, who's a British director. It's considered film noir, although I think most people, I mean, I always do think more film noir is more like actual like Detour or something, where there's low lifes and guns, and this is a different kind of criminality, and these like vain, horrible people. And it is such a New York movie. It will give you the feel of New York, old time New York, more of anything. On one side you've got Do the Right Thing, where you've got people on the street and everything in the summer and that. But if you want New York when it's about downtown and the glitzy lights, it takes place at night. These people live and work at night. It's all about who's going to be on television when all the big studios were there, or who's in the clubs, who's in the jazz clubs, who are the big acts, who are the Broadway stars, all that, and then they're just running around with so much energy all night long. Sidney Falco lives in his office. He's got a bed behind his door in his office, and he's a hustler. And it's an amazing movie. It doesn't let up for whatever it is, an hour and 45 minutes or whatever. It is so energetic and so thrilling to watch. So watch that movie if you just want to be impressed with like filmmaking. Next, I'm going to recommend a movie none of you will watch unless you've watched it already, and that's The General by Buster Keaton. I could have done 5 silent movies. This is a silent movie. It is the precursor of the genre that they're not making many of these today, but back in the 90s and early 2000s, this was kind of the kind of movie that everybody was making, the action comedy. This would have been an Eddie Murphy movie, or a Jackie Chan movie, or any of those guys. Uh, it's an action comedy. He's I won't tell you much about it. Anyway, he's a soldier. He's a Confederate soldier, I believe, and he's got to. The general is this train, and he's got to handle this train, and it's all kinds of action, special effects stuff. Only about an hour and 18 minutes long, but you do have to sit there and watch it because there is no sound. So, but that is the one Buster Keaton I would recommend. You could watch some of his shorts first, but it's incredibly well done. The stunts are amazing. You wouldn't believe what they would do back in those days without any CGI or anything, or even stunt doubles in many places. Next, I will I'll try and be a little more forgiving, and I will recommend. These are kind of all supposed to be fun movies. Singing in the Rain. If you've never seen a musical, this is the one to see first. if you're interested in old Hollywood, this is made in the 50s, early 50s. It was about the advent. It was set in the 20s, though. It's about the advent of sound. It's about the era when sound took over movies. So not only is it a great, fun story with a lot of great dancing and music, but it's also a lot of comedy and about the changes in Hollywood. So it's kind of been a theme. I've been talking about Hollywood here a lot, so I thought I'd recommend that. I'm told by people that this is the movie to get your kids into watching movies, into watching old movies, especially girls, but also boys like it too. Um, Wonderful movie. Donald O'Connor, very fun. I think people will relate to him as a great comic side man. Debbie Reynolds, this is her first film. Uh, she's very young. As you know, people know her as the mother of Carrie Fisher, I guess, today. But she's an incredible talent. Gene Kelly, along with Fred Astaire, is like the two major dance men of Hollywood. I won't go into that anymore, but I think you would really enjoy it if you want a fun movie. I tried to stay away from recommending 2001 and The Seven Samurai, which you should also see, and just the same 5-10 movies that are the best movies, but or Citizen Kane, which I probably wouldn't recommend. If I were going to recommend a dramatic film by Orson Welles, I'd probably recommend Falstaff. If you're a Shakespeare fan, definitely watch Falstaff. Or I'm sorry, it's called Chimes at Midnight. It is, he took all the Falstaff plays. He took the Henry IV plays, Henry IV Part 1 and 2, plus some scenes from The Merry Wives of Windsor, which is another Falstaff play, and some scenes from Henry V, which is a play that takes place after Falstaff's death. But no matter, he mashes them up into one and a half hour film, and you would swear nothing is lost. It's an amazing editing job. Orson Welles himself plays Falstaff. It is marvelous if you like Shakespeare. I can recommend it now because they've done a sound re they've done a sound reconstruction on it, so you can actually, the soundtrack, the audio track is very good now. A big problem for most of my life, and I guess it's finished now, is with the post Hollywood Orson Welles films, the sound was always terrible. He was always making them on the fly. He was usually shooting without live sound, and they would dub them later, sometimes years later. You sometimes recognize that Orson Welles is dubbing like half the male voices himself and no one else, and so they can be very hard to listen to. But it sounds great now. So I think anybody who enjoys Shakespeare, again, it's in black and white, so I don't know what to tell you. Get over it, I guess. But I'm not recommending that today. I'm recommending this movie by Orson Welles instead, which is one of the most fun, and intellectually delightful movies ever made. It is more or less a documentary. Again, it was like all of Orson Welles' later films. It was had a very rocky history, not only of distribution, but the way it was made. It started out, he had a friend. You see this friend in the film who's an art dealer, a gallery owner, an art dealer in Paris, and he wanted to be a filmmaker, and he got an idea to make a documentary about this art forger, Elmire Dehori, I think is how you say his name, who was living at this time on the island of Ibiza, and living sort of a flamboyant older character life, where he's his legal troubles are somewhat over. He's kind of famous for being a famous forger, but he had been a notorious forger for many years. This guy goes down, to forget his name. This guy never shot a film before, or shoots a ton of footage of the party scenes and everything, but he doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, I calls Orson Welles because I have all this footage, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. So Orson Welles comes in, makes a film out of it. It is an amazing story, not only about Elmer Dehori, but a person who just happens to be there at the time and is writing a book, or has written a book about Elmer Dehori, and is sort of hanging on the island, is a man named Clifford Irving. who was a novelist, sort of well-respected novelist, who later came to fame in a much different way. So it's an amazing confluence of events that lead all these people together on the island, and then Orson Welles to come in and make a film out of it about forgery and on fakes and art forgery and different kinds of forgery. And it is a wonderful film. It's like nothing else. He wanted to go on and make other films. He called it a filmic essay or something like that. It's not strictly a documentary, but it is an incredible movie. And it'll make you think a lot about what art is and what it means and what to make of it. And it's just I just love that movie so much. So I guess I got to watch triple feature tonight. So Sweet Smell of Success, F for Fake, The Third Man, Singing in the Rain, The General, and another movie I'm going to recommend, which got maligned when it came out. It is such a fun movie, though. It is. I've got like a little congestion, but I do every night anyway. I don't know why I do these long videos. This is still from the movie. If you could say, it's Jimmy Cagney, his basically his last role until Ragtime, like 20 years later, which he has a little cameo in. It is called. Did I do a? Oh, maybe I didn't do a. It's called 1, 2, 3, and James Cagney plays a. It's a Billy Wilder film. It's probably not his most famous film. It's a later film from the '60s. It is in black and white. It is a hilarious. Again, it's a very energetic film. Excuse me. Jimmy Cagney plays a Coca-Cola executive working in Berlin during the Cold War, early side of the Cold War. He's trying to get a concession to distribute Coca-Cola on the other side of the Iron Curtain, so in East Germany or Soviet Union or whatever. And he has been given this assignment. He screwed up at his last job in the Middle East or something, and he's been dumped here. And he wants to get this done, and he has to take care of the daughter of the executive of the company, of his daughter's boss, and make sure she has a good time in Berlin. He finds out that she is actually in love with a communist, a socialist from the other side of Iron Curtain. He has to kind of clean this kid up, and it's a movie about his insane, like hard driving characters. A wonderful Cold War comedy. There weren't too many of those. There were some though. It's fun to see Berlin. I think it was shot. Must have been shot in Berlin. Uh, just a wonderful, energetic movie where he's just going 1, 2, and the 1, 2, 3 comes from the way he like barks orders at everybody. Like 1, get somebody in here, get a tailor in here to get this guy. 2, call the airport, blah, 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 and all this for the whole movie. It is such a frenetic pace. It's a wonderful James Cagney performance. He's obviously one of the greatest film actors of all time. And to see him with this much energy in his probably in his 60s, maybe late 50s, but today the guy playing this would be 70 years old, but back then he might have only been 55 or something. You never know. But there's Billy Wilder in the corner with the glasses, and James Cagney with the kids. Apparently, James Cagney really did not get along with this kid at all, who played the actor. But anyway, it's a wonderful movie. I recommend it just for pure fun. Again, it's in black and white, which means it looks great, but it means people don't like to watch it. So anyway, that is what I've got to say. I'm sorry to go on so long. I'll put all the names of everything in the credits, and we'll talk soon.